Hello all, it's week 13. There are a handful of things that I hope you took from Creativity Quest 3. First, some of you may never have crafted a digital video before other than maybe shooting some video with your phone. I hope you found the process of brainstorming, drafting, creating, editing, and producing a short video useful and interesting. Second, I hope you take some technical tips from this quest, thinking about size and ratios and screen transitions and more. Ideally, these are technical tips you won't leave behind with the assignment or with whatever software you chose to use, but tips you can put into place in other projects and creating other types of media. Third, and I know this was a frustrating aspect of Creativity Quest 3, but I hope you developed an approach to creativity with constraints. You could only use the materials available on D2L, and trust me, I knew they were really limiting. I chose them in part to be. You'll find yourselves again and again in your professional and your personal and your academic lives having to think on your feet. Being creative with constraints, wrestling with clients who won't budge or customers who only see the world through a narrow perspective or only appreciate one particular way of creating a product or thinking through an idea. And in these contexts, you're going to have to be nimble, flexible, innovative, and creative within the confines of what you can actually do. This week, we're going to talk about creative problem solving, which we're going to continue to talk about next week too. This week, specifically, we're going to talk about maybe the most important aspect of problem solving, and that's actually problem identifying. I would argue that the most innovative, productive entrepreneurs are those who can identify problems and intervene by offering a service, a product, or a new way of doing things. It's one thing to address a problem if a client comes to you with that problem. It's another thing entirely if you have the disposition and the abilities to identify a problem and address it early on, especially if it's a problem people didn't really know they had until you offered a solution for it. Henry Ford is famous for having said, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." Customers wanted a faster way to travel, but couldn't have fathomed a motor vehicle as the solution. In this video, I'm going to share some cases and suggest some approaches for creative problem solving. Most importantly, I'm going to introduce Creativity Quest 4, which will start on with phases 1 and 2, identifying some problems or issues here on campus. So here are a few examples of businesses launched to address problems you maybe didn't know you had. First, tempo run, which we've talked about earlier in class. If you run, you might know it's annoying when your music trips you up because one song's really slow, then the next is really fast. You can certainly build playlists on your music player, but here's an app that'll do the work for you and remember your running playlists. A second example, fitness tracking for dogs, Whistle. Not only does Whistle track what your dog does and how much exercise your dog's getting, it also allows you to track via GPS, cellular, and Wi-Fi where your dog is in case he or she runs off. Third, loadable laundry carts. I first encountered these when I was teaching in New York City for a summer. The building I lived in had a laundromat, but no change machine. Instead, you could use your credit card or cash to buy a card from one machine, load it up, and then you could use that card on any of the washers and dryers. No carrying around tons of quarters or trying to find somewhere to get change at 2 a.m. when you actually have time to do your laundry. For the laundromat owners, the card readers are relatively easy to install and a lot easier to work with and much more secure than having credit card readers on every single machine. And you don't have to worry about people robbing your machines. There's no change or cash in them. Fourth, front clasp necklaces. I wear necklaces pretty much every day and two things often happen. First, the clasp rotates to the front so it's visible. Not a big deal, but I wind up adjusting the clasp what feels like all the time during the day. Second, and this is infinitely worse, my hair gets caught in the clasp and pulls on it. They're often easier to put on, especially for people who have arthritis and can't easily reach back and behind their heads. Finally, Trunk Club. This is a shopping service and they ship you outfits. If you like them, you keep them. If you don't, you send them back. When I was in grad school, one of my professors had a buyer who did this for her manually. The buyer would go to the mall, pick out outfits, and bring them over to the professor's house. She'd try it all on, pick out what she liked, reimburse the buyer, and the buyer would return the rest of the clothes that she didn't like. I thought this was a bit bonkers, but now I totally get it. I never have time to shop for clothes. With Trunk Club, you get a personal stylist who works with you. First, you use the website to identify general parameters. You answer questions like, what style do you wear to work? Formal, business casual, casual, and you get paired up with a stylist who picks out the clothes. Trunk Club was founded in 2009 by Joanna Van Vleck while she was an MBA student. Van Vleck's initial focus was really on the male demographic. Women generally exist in a shopping-related culture with outlets for purchasing clothes. Men aren't as enculturated as women, and there are fewer services with men as their primary clients or customers. Van Vleck attracted an initial $11 million from a venture group to launch the company. In 2014, 5 years after its launch, Trunk Club was acquired by Nordstrom for about $350 million. And Nordstrom was not purchasing a successful company. Trunk Club wasn't yet. But Nordstrom was investing in the idea that the company could be successful. And more curated and personal shopping sites are popping up all the time for broad markets and specific markets and for specific products like shoes. I want to pause on talking about problem identification to talk for a minute about our competitive marketplace. You all are probably aware of the time dynamics of today's economy, especially the digital economy. If you have a successful product, you can't rest on it because others will quickly capitalize on the idea. For instance, Candy Crush by King made about $4.2 million a day in 2018. And Candy Crush is just one of the games the company makes and markets. If you go, though, to the Android or Apple Store and generally search for Candy Match or Candy Match 3, you'll find hundreds of similar games. Think about how King has managed to maintain the market for Candy Crush even in the face of so much competition. Back to creative problem identification. To be able to anticipate what people need before they need it, you have to listen everywhere. Pull out your earbuds on the bus. Listen to what people are talking about. Hang out at a busy coffee shop and be that human satellite dish. Read product reviews on Amazon, specific ones and maybe random ones. Listen to Twitter. Cultivate a feed for particular people you think are important to listen to. When you're watching TV, especially ads, think about how you could potentially do something different or better. Stroll the grocery store. Keep an ear out for people. Key phrases to listen for might include, I wish that, if only someone would. It sucks that. I hate that. It makes me crazy when. To be able to anticipate what people need before they need it, you have to listen, but you also have to orient yourself. By that, I mean entrepreneurs can't just see the world from their personal perspective. No matter what your background or experiences are, that's too limiting. You need to deeply reflect and understand your perspective and what has contributed to it. And you have to be able to adopt different lenses and put yourself in other people's shoes. You have to empathize, which means recognizing and deeply connecting with the experiences of others. Again, our focus this week is on creative problem finding. You have 3 readings and all focus on problem identification. The first is finding a problem to solve, and the chapter is full of ideas, techniques, and cases. The second reading argues that the best entrepreneurs search for questions, not necessarily answers. And the third offers lessons about finding a problem worth solving and introduces examples from young entrepreneurs. You have one creativity case. It's the coolest college startups that Inc. magazine identified in 2008. Take a look at the list. And we have 2 creativity sparks. Both are from Entrepreneur magazine. One is a list of 17 rules every entrepreneur should break, and the other is a list of the worst entrepreneurial advice ever. I've posted the full assignment for Creativity Quest 4 on D2L. It's a big assignment with a lot of parts. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the multiple deadlines. Maybe use one of the tools or approaches of time mapping and project management we talked about last week. Overall, though, you're going to identify an issue or problem on campus. Then get into project groups, and your group will suggest an entrepreneurial idea to address the problem. The product of Creativity Quest 4 is a standalone, collaboratively created slideshow in which you're going to do a few key things. This is included here on the screen, and it's also in the Creativity Quest 4 assignment. Your final slideshow should include a title, the names of your group members. You want to introduce the issue or problem, discuss why it's an issue, why it's a problem, who it affects, how it affects them. Include your pitch, your creative, innovative, entrepreneurial idea to address the issue. Mention and discuss some of the considerations related to implementing your idea, and include your group's recommended next steps to implementing your idea. And of course, you'll want to cite your source material. When you head to our class D2L site, go into content, and look for the syllabus, assignments, and Dropbox folder, you should now see the full Creativity Quest 4 assignment, and then the Google Drive folder that we're going to work from for phases 1 and 2. If you head to the Google Drive folder, you shouldn't have to log in. Double click on phase 1. This is where you'll add a campus issue or problem and talk just a little bit about who it affects and how it affects them. That's due by midnight on Friday, April 12th. What I'll do is identify a few issues that we'll discuss in groups for Creativity Quest 4. You'll go back to that Google Drive folder, find the Phase 2 doc, and sign up to work with a group for Creativity Quest 4. That'll be due by midnight on Tuesday, April 16th. So to get started, you're going to go into that Google Drive folder I just showed. You're going to choose the Phase 1 doc, find your name, note a problem or issue. That's worth 25 points. For phase 2, you're going to go back to that Google Drive folder, and there's going to be a sign-up sheet where you can sign up to work with a group to address a specific problem or issue. That's due by midnight, Tuesday, April 16th. That's worth another 25 points. Once you're in a group, you'll want to introduce yourself to your group members, share some contact info, dig into the project by doing some research and some brainstorming together, coming up with possible ideas, divvying up tasks based on your skills, solidifying your ideas about what entrepreneurial idea you have, and importantly, mapping out your group's deadlines and deliverables. And you'll have about 2 weeks in groups to work on your final project. Your final project will be a standalone slideshow. One of your group members should upload the final slideshow as a PPT or PDF to D2L by noon on Wednesday, May 1st. And that's worth 250 points of Creativity Quest 4. This is our final class project. I'd like to see you draw from across our class ideas, concepts, tools, and techniques in your Creativity Quest 4 work. I am happy to brainstorm, consult, answer questions, and help across the individual and the collaborative parts of Creativity Quest 4. Don't be shy if you have questions. For now, look at the assignment, put in your planner or your calendar the important deadlines for phase 1 and phase 2 so you don't miss those important first steps for Creativity Quest 4.